Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast. This is the podcast where we have digital discussions in the worlds of social media, pop culture, everything really. I'm really pleased to be joined by my guest is, an actor. He's also a musician. You've seen him in many television shows of many various genres, such as Men at Work on TBS, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Altered Carbon on Netflix. We're with Adam Busch. Adam, welcome to Popternative. So let's get right into it. When did you kind of decide that you wanted to be, a so-called storyteller? Because one could make an argument that music is also storytelling. So when did you kind of want to do that? When did you decide that that's something you wanted to do?
I like your argument a lot because I feel really strongly that they're the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Music, and that's the most common question people ask me is, what do I prefer? And to me, it's really all the same. Like, you're just experiencing things for people. There are great music gigs, and there are shitty ones, and there are great TV gigs, and there are ones that are a drag. So it's really just that same thing. I think the only thing I had going for me early on was that I knew what I wanted to do when I was really young. Like, as far back as I can remember, I wanted to perform, and my parents encouraged that. So I really just landed wherever I was getting a good response. I started doing stand-up as a kid, and I wanted to be on Broadway. There's only so many Broadway roles for kids, so that just kind of fell into taking acting classes, and that fell into doing films, and I just kind of ran from there.
And how did you kind of prepare? I mean, like I mentioned, the shows that you've done are pretty different. Like, how were you kind of able to prepare for each one? I mean, you look at some of the comedies that you've done, and then you look at some of the dramas you have done. I mean, what was kind of the process like preparing for those different roles?
There's normally not much of one because it moves so fast. And sometimes if it's a pilot or something new, people don't quite know. Like, I've been working on this show called Altered Carbon for Netflix, and it takes place in like thousands of years from now. And I remember we were shooting the first scene in Canada, and I was reading the dialogue, and somebody yelled, "Cut." I said, "What's up?" The script supervisor, who makes sure you're saying everything the script says, shouted to me. She said, "It's Oni." What? She goes, "It's Oni." "What's Oni?" She goes, "You said O-N-I, and it's Oni." Because there was this technical jargon, and it had O-N-I. I just figured it was FBI, O-N-I. And, I mean, she was right. I was wrong. I'm glad we redid it. But it occurred to me, like, how the fuck would I know?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, how would I know? There is no pronunciation of this word that I've heard yet. You're only saying it on the show. I didn't know. Like, there was a computer desk that I'm working, and it's in the future, and there's knobs and buttons and things. And I knew other actors and other characters had worked on this board. So I was kind of asking how it moves, and people were like, "Just move your hands around. Just fly them around, figure it out." Like, there was no, I got to learn how this works, and I got to learn how that works. There's mentally and emotionally, I can prepare on my own for my own stuff, whatever I want to do. But in terms of like jumping into a new world, you're really just like thrown in, figure out how to swim. Mm-hmm. And the best can just do that, I think.
You were a series lead on Men at Work on TBS, the workplace comedy. What do you kind of think? Because workplace comedies have had a lot of success over the past couple of years. What do you think hits a stride with audiences about workplace comedy? Is it just as simple as people like watching shows about their everyday lives, going to work? Or do you think it's more than that?
I think there are two kinds of audiences, or you can split an audience up into two groups. One want to see themselves like reflected back, and they go, "Wow, that's me. Like, I feel so validated." And other people want to be taken as far away as they possibly can from themselves. Like, they want to escape. And when those people see themselves reflected back, shaving in the mirror, they're like, I paid $15 for this. Like, I really don't want to see some guy shaving. And then other people see some crazy fantasy and they're like, I can't relate to this. Like, this is not me. I don't know. So I feel like sitcoms are mostly for the escapist, and you want people that feel like friends. Like you want, it doesn't matter where they work or if they're trying to get, it's really irrelevant. All that's just a setup to get characters that people relate to in front of them. Do you know what I mean? I saw a really cool meme the other day that was just, you've probably seen it. It's just like a advertisement on a subway of like 4 people kind of facing forward chatting together, and there's an actual person standing next to the poster like she's the 5th one.
Yeah, I saw that.
But listening to a podcast is like, and I feel like that's really accurate, and that's what watching a sitcom is like. Like, you want to see what your friends do. That's why they can be such despicable characters, but we still root for them.
Mm-hmm. And was your experience on that show, like talk about your experience, because I love that show. I really enjoyed it. I watched all 3 seasons of that show. How's your experience on that show?
It sounds like a terrible cliche, but it was like we were really best buddies. We hung out all the time. We loved hanging out. We had each other's back. We were rooting for each other. We supported each other. Like, I'd always wanted to do a role on a sitcom like that, because to me they were just like one-act plays, and I love that stuff. It's a whole different world doing a sitcom. It's a very unique and different experience. And the process of like trying out the material all week, having that wall there, and of like basically you're like live market testing jokes in front of an audience and seeing if they laugh. If they don't laugh, they'll change the joke. At the end of the day, even if it gets a big laugh, they're going to add fake laughs anyway. So I'm not really sure what the process is for, but it's a good gauge to figure out what an audience picked from a theme park would think is funny. And I was impressed at the amount of people that wanted to and were willing to do this show, like such great actors that really enjoy the sitcom, theater people that came out of nowhere to just like, because it's the only place you can get that. It's like doing a rock concert play.
No, it does. It's funny that you mentioned the laugh track, because I came across on Facebook a video. It was a clip of Friends, and it was like Ross talking to someone, and they took like the laugh track off, and it's like Friends without the laugh track is actually pretty disturbing. And I've seen another one too where like they took the Big Bang Theory and they took the laugh track off, and I find that's really interesting too. Like, and from your perspective, working on those shows, what do you think about the impact of the laugh track? Do you honestly think that it's there because if it wasn't there, certain things in the show no one would have a response to? Like, do you think it does its role to kind of promote and solicit laughs?
There's an element of those shows that rightly so is escapism, you know? And I think, like, I know when I go to a play or a movie, like, I'm usually the one not laughing when everyone's laughing, and then laughing really loudly when no one is. And as I've taken on that role in society, I found that a lot of times, once I do laugh, like, just, it comes out, like, unconsciously, just, other people will then. Once they're told it's okay to laugh and to find that funny, they're okay to laugh. Do you know what I mean?
No, for sure.
I think that's part of the escapism, and it's part of the, like, I just want to not think. Like, I don't want it to be stupid, but I don't want to have an existential crisis watching this sitcom. I want to get away from my day. I feel like those help with that. It reminds everyone it's okay. No one wants to be the first one to laugh or applaud. Like, I love when things end on a dime without a wrap up. I love when it's just kind of like anything. Here's the emotional end beat. Let's just end it. And I'm always the first one to applaud because I really hope that's the end. Sometimes it's not. There's an epilogue and it comes back and you feel silly. Or like in a classical piece, when it's just in between movements, people will applaud. Like, everyone's scared of that. So that helps deliver an area of comfort. It's okay to laugh if you did. If you didn't, it's okay. Nothing's going wrong. Other people find it funny. Because those clips you're talking about are weird. Holding for laughs while you're in the middle of a conversation is an awkward thing.
Yeah.
You know, politicians take time to learn how to do that. But watching somebody fill space when they're like, you know, it's like having a conversation near train tracks. Every time a train comes by, you're just like, hold. But if you can share in a moment together where, like, you're finding it funny and the audience is finding it funny, That's really special. If people are ever laughing and I don't know why, like it's not because of a punchline or a setup or a sight gag, they're just laughing, I know it's going well.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned Ultra Carbon on Netflix. You were on that show. The one thing I kind of wanted to talk to you about a little bit too was the television is changing. It's shifting. You're seeing a lot more content out there, and a lot more like streaming services like Netflix are putting out content all the time. So I just wanted to know from someone who's been on shows on cable television, who's been on shows like on streaming networks. What do you think have been some of the kind of the biggest changes or drastic changes in the last couple years? Let's say like 5 years. And do you think that this whole idea of there being abundance of content out there, do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing? It's a double-edged sword because there's a lot of options, but then not everyone's going to be able to like attack and watch all this stuff because there's only a certain amount of time, right?
Two things. At least from what I saw in Altered Carbon and what I've heard from some other Netflix shows, the unique thing that they do that's a real improvement, and I think missing from cable and network, is that they tend to hire the creator and then they say, make your show. Show it to us when you're done. Like, we'll have notes, but we're not going to hang over your shoulder. We want to see what you would do if you were left alone. Lock your picture, then show it to us. If we have comments, we'll tell you afterwards. And I think that's what allows a vision to go through. That's what allows somebody's voice to go through. And that voice is what people connect with. Those are the things that make people want to binge watch something. When cable and network tend to see a creator and they're like, oh, we love what you just did. We want to hire you to do a show. And they bring them on, and then they second guess every decision they want to make. And they have suggestions. And they were like, instead of a magazine, can it be, a newspaper? Can it be the horse races? Instead of female, could it be a male instead of this? And I respect those choices, but I always wonder why they hired that creator to like his voice and what he had to say, or she had to say. Then why are you hiring them? Why don't you go make your horse race show with your male lead on the side and then let them do whatever that is they want to do? That can be limiting. In terms of the abundance of content, I think the line is definitely getting blurred between like what is television and what is film and what is a short film and what is a YouTube clip. And I like that. It should be the length that people have to tell their story. It's when you're obligated to do 25 episodes and you have a 10-episode story that things tend to drag or suck, or you're filling it with stuff that's not your voice. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, I do. I do know what you're saying, but I can't keep up anymore, I find. And you did My Music on YouTube, web series. Web series are taking over these days. There's so many web series, and do you think people's attention spans are not as big as they think? And that's why there's some web series out there, like episodes are 10 minutes long. They can watch 5 of them, boom, it's 50 minutes worth, and it's like 5-6 episodes, boom, it's done. That's season 1 of the web series. What do you think about the web series landscape?
Well, again, that is, in most cases, streamlining that voice without a lot of tinkering and criticism. They get it out there. And whatever that is what people respond to. Like, my parents used to pay $4 for every minute to speak to a recording of their favorite teen idol on the phone and hear a message. And that was worth it to them.
They still have that now, by the way. Book Cameo. Have you heard of that? Book Cameo?
No. What's that?
It's literally people could hire people to make a message for them. They pay celebrities they pick a celebrity, and every celebrity has a fee, and they get a notification saying so and so wants to buy a I think it's Book Cameo or Book Cam or something, and they say, hey, so and so, happy birthday. This is LeBron James speaking. Happy birthday, and they get a personal message.
That's great. I love it.
Yeah.
They should get money for that, and if people are willing to pay, they should do it. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, but what you were saying about your parents on the phone, it just reminded me of that.
Yeah, well, nowadays you could just turn on your favorite YouTube star, and you're getting a brand new free 7-minute thing of them speaking to you about their day. Like, we don't have to bother with that. Like, songwriters used to write songs for whatever. Actors did commercials, they did anything. Like, that's more what it's turned into again. People have more talents. If any, look, some actors don't work for 2 years and then do an amazing film and then go hide again. But most of the time, if you're an actor or a songwriter or a singer, you just want to sing every day. You just want to perform every day. You want to use your talents for money and have that back and forth. And most people are not, that I know of at least, no matter what level of celebrity they are, they'd be happy to do it. They're probably doing it a couple times a day for free anyway. Like, just selfie, take a thing, do a bit. Pay for it. If you want something personalized, that'd be great. If somebody found someone from The Wire that I was obsessed with and had them do a happy birthday message from Bubs to me, I'd be really excited.
Sure. We actually had someone from The Wire on the show. We had Ryan Sands. He's in Marvel The Runaways right now.
Oh, that's awesome. Who did you play on
I don't know the name. You're gonna hold it against me, but I haven't watched The Wire yet.
You interviewed him and you hadn't seen The Wire?
Well, no, I watched Marvel's The Runaways. It was about Marvel's The Runaways, but he was, I forget, he was one of the police officers. I don't remember who it was, but no, I watched Marvel The Runaways. It was about Marvel The Runaways. But another thing I want to talk to you about is fandom is so huge, and you've had the privilege, and I'm sure it feels like such a long time ago, but you were a Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is like one of the kind of biggest fandoms out there, and I feel like that fandom is never gonna die. Are you okay with that?
I mean, there are two things, no matter who they are, I will tell myself when I meet them, don't ask about The Wire and don't ask about Bob Dylan. If they know Dylan or they work with him, I want to ask so bad. And I tell myself not to, and then I can't even help it. Then it comes out like Tourette's, just blah. And most of the time, it's something they really want to talk about, and you can help bring it all together. I was not great at it in the beginning with Buffy, just because I played such an awful character. People were very comfortable being as awful as they wanted to me, or expressing their disgust. I get it because I've been working since I was a kid, so I get a lot of oh, do I know you? Or do we know each other? Did we go to school together? And that does happen to a lot of people, but normally when they remember where they know the face from, it's oh, you're the guy from Groundhog's Day. But I get this oh, and they're so you killed Tara, and they're so mad and disgusted, and I'm just sitting here kind of taking it. Great to meet you. Cool. I didn't know what to do, but it was actually hanging out with Jamie Hector from The Wire, who played Marlowe, a terrible, terrible drug dealer character, and seeing how people would come up to him and how he would kind of bring them in because he loves The Wire and just make it not about him and more about the shared experience. It was much more enjoyable for him and for them, so I've adapted more of that because I know it's just a visceral thing, but I have no problem with that. I mean, I'll be asking people about Dylan forever, and it'll never get old. I always want to know.
By the way, Ryan Sands was Officer T. Lloyd in The Wire.
Okay, he's great.
Lloyd, yeah, he was in there. He was on The Wire. But before we wrap up, too, because I really appreciate you coming on the show. I know you're a busy guy, but it's one of those things, too, where have you had an opportunity, whether it's Buffy or something else, to go to conventions?
I have.
And what do you kind of think about the landscape of it? Because everyone has a different perspective, a different experience at that, because it's so amazing to see that these people are coming in to pay to meet people that they, an escape, like you mentioned, you know what I mean? And it's one of those things where I feel like there's been kind of a little bit of a boom. Not to say that they've never been popular, but there just seems to be way more conventions out there. Why do you think that is a thing? There's more.
I mean, there's certainly a hunger for, in this world where it's not just a show, there's lots of content, ancillary content, and to immerse yourself in this world and to spend as much time at it. Conventions used to be a cult thing. Comic-Con used to be a cult thing for comic book collectors. They gathered for that. Now it's kind of built into your contract on The Walking Dead and stuff, what conventions you'll do before you've even started the show and all that kind of stuff. I think people seeking out to learn as much as they can about the thing they love is really healthy, and I'm always about that. And there's always going to be people that are obsessed with it. There's sometimes actors who've never done them will ask me, what should I expect? And I always tell them the same thing, which is just people. I would get a Mad magazine every Saturday after Temple that my father would take me to buy. And now whenever I see a Mad magazine cover anywhere, I'm immediately taken back to that time with my dad. And it doesn't matter who's making the magazine or what's on the cover. When I see that logo, I'm going to have that response. And people would watch Buffy together or with their mother or father. And this is for them, making them feel that. Mm-hmm. And they're seeking it through you. So just remember that it's a privilege and an honor to have that responsibility. And we should respect it because every human deserves it. But if you were to devote the rest of your day or life to bringing that person back to that place, you can't do that. Mm-hmm. Like, you cannot make them feel that. Mm-hmm. So don't take it on too much, because people will make you responsible for their lives and their choices because you are a part of that. And then at a certain point, you have to remain intact.
But I'm sure it's just really cool that, especially, like Buffy was such a long time ago, you still have people coming up to you and want to talk to you about something you did a long time ago. I mean, that feeling must be pretty cool.
I mean, especially if they say anything specific about the show or want to share something with me, like, it's the greatest feeling in the world. I mean, it's the best. There are things that affect me that way, and I'm seeing how they exit the stage and wondering where they're going and thinking about their life and getting proximity to that can be very validating. Like, I did a show when I was a kid on Nickelodeon that had starred an Asian American woman who was the first Asian woman on the cover of TV Guide. And we would travel around and people would say to her, like, I didn't know I'd never seen an Asian person on television that looked like me until I saw you. And once I saw you, I thought, I can do that. So, I mean, any way which you can affect that kind of change in someone is the best. But I can tie it all together really quickly because sure. I went to Comic-Con once to do some signing for some Buffy thing. And I saw that Sergio Aragonés from Mad Magazine was signing there. And he was my favorite. I bought all his comics. He was my favorite. So I went, bought a bunch of stuff, and waited in line for him to sign it. He did. He made a little drawing for me. Doesn't speak good English. It was really sweet. And as I was leaving, I was looking at this drawing he had done on the cover of this magazine of a comic book shop. It was the inside of a comic book shop, very detailed. All the stuff has all this fine. And I saw there was a poster that he had drawn that said Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and it had these 3 nerd guys.
Wow.
Oh, I'm one of those nerd guys. He drew me. I got to go back and tell him. And I turned around and I go back to tell him, and he's got this long line, and I stopped myself. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, this is what people do to me when they, like, come back to the line. Like, I just wanted you to know that I was watching Buffy when I had a cesarean. Yeah. I'm like, that's great. I don't know what to say. Like, that's that impulse that I'm having right now. And I'm trying to get him to take me back to my father and I after Temple. And I can't ask him of that. I can just share in this moment, enjoy it, and it's enough.
And, like, yeah, I've interviewed musicians, too. We talk about, the fact that people come up and say, like, wow, your music really saved me. Like, I love your music, best, like, album of the year. And, like, they're just like, wow. Like, they don't know what to, like, there's no words to describe it. Like, they can't.
Right.
They're speechless.
But you have to take it you have to internalize it as much as you would internalize it if the person said, oh, my friend listened to your record and then he killed himself. Mm-hmm. If it could save his life, then that means what? If he actually went through with it, it's your fault. Should have been a little better. Could have mixed it a little better, and maybe he'd be alive. Like, you can only take it in so far.
Yeah, it depends on the context, 100%.
Well, if I'm going to believe I saved his life, then I have to believe it was in my power to. So, understand it all. If you only believe the good reviews, that's not right. If you're going to believe reviews, you got to believe all of them.
No, for sure, absolutely.
Or not at all.
No, for sure. Well, Adam, I think we'll wrap up. Adam, thank you so much for joining me on the show. Now let's plug away. Where can people follow you on social media? Any projects you've been working on that people could be on the lookout for? Plug away, man.
Absolutely. Right now, I'm just focusing on, I program documentaries for a film festival called Slam Dance. And I encourage any filmmakers, if you've ever made a film before, documentary or not, short or feature, to submit. It supports first-time filmmakers. I believe in it very strongly. And check out Altered Carbon.
Awesome. Well, Adam, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Nice talking to you.
Yeah. Well, this has been Popternative. You catch previous episodes Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for the video episodes, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you listen to audio podcasts. That's where you can find the audio only. Until next time, this is Adam Busch and Petey Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.